I'm a poet, writer, and photographer, and I'm doing the organizing and curating of this art exhibit for the Babylonian. The exhibit is organized, sponsored by Tisri Dunya Theatre and the Silk Road Institute, and co-sponsored by Independent Jewish Voices Montreal, around what's happening to the children of Gaza for the past 3 months. So the general theme of the exhibit is the children of Gaza as they are killed. They are wrapped in shrouds, and the shrouds look very much like cocoons of butterflies, but they don't emerge from them anymore. And there is also a confusion. The artist is merging this vision of the shroud with the vision of the diapers or cloth diapers of the kids, and everything is mixed together. And that's what we can see in different shapes, in different positions on many of the pieces that are in the exhibit. Those pieces also are shaped in a way that from some angles they resemble the map of Palestine as well. Also another theme that is very relevant and prevalent in the exhibit is the paper rockets that the children play with, and there is a confusion in the children's minds between the toy rockets that they play with and the rockets that are hitting them and killing them all the time. So it is a sort of morbid exhibit, but it does really bring to the viewer, to the audience, what really I think the artist wants them to see, which is how horrible this current situation is in Gaza.
And so these were some of the cocoons here.
So as you can see, for example, here, this first piece has the shape of this paper rocket, and the shrouded child on it. Some parts of their bodies are missing, again depicting the situation of many of the bodies that are currently recovered from the bombings in Gaza. You can see sort of the map of Palestine in a way from a certain angle. If you look at this piece in a certain way. The artist chose gauze as the primary ingredient of his artwork because gauze is a very simple medical used piece of cloth or piece of material, but it's very easy for us to find it here or any place in the world. But in Gaza, like all other medical supplies, it is in great shortage. And also the gauze itself, actually its name is taken from Gaza. It's one of the places where it was invented, if we can say. This piece in particular shows the children dead, shrouded, going up to heaven again on what resembles a paper rocket or a paper plane that they play with. If we want to look at the centerpiece, you can see that most of the faces of the children here, most of them are not shrouded yet, and many of them have 3 eyes. And his vision in that is that they are watching us. They are watching us wherever we go. They don't only have 2 eyes, but they're watching us more, and it puts more responsibility on us to act. In one of his statements, he did say that their silence while they're dead resembles our silence towards what's happening to them, and it is very painful to watch what we are doing, which increases their pain. And this piece here is inspired by a true story that came out of Gaza, where the body of the mother was totally unrecognizable, but the two babies, the twin babies, I really don't know if they were, she was still pregnant or just given birth, or they were older twins, but they were more intact than the mother's body. And again, the idea of the paper rockets, the toy rockets, are the ones that bomb, and this confusion between the toys and what's happening to them, which actually reminds me of something that I saw in Gaza myself. I visited Gaza after Cast Lead, which is about 13, 14 years ago now, in 2009, and when we went to one of the like the children's section in one of the libraries, there were a lot of children's drawings that they drew the planes, they drew the bombing as toys, but at the same time they were depicting war. But because the only way they can draw a helicopter or they can draw is like resembling a toy, that's what they were using. So it's a huge, deep trauma that befalls on the children.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a Palestinian from Nablus, and who wrote actually this poetry for this mashah. Thank you. If you want me.
No. Like, I'm just going to introduce everyone and thank everyone for coming.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming, for being here with us tonight to see Cocoons Between Earth and Heaven. We have some beautiful music that you've heard a little bit of, and we're going to have some poetry that we're going to be sharing. And I'd like to start off by just reading Dishti Dunya's land acknowledgement to acknowledge the land that we are on. Dishti Dunya Theatre acknowledges that the land it operates on was founded as and continues to be a settler colonial state. We recognize that the sacred land is the unceded land of the indigenous people, and we gratefully acknowledge them as this land's past, present, and future stewards. Dishti Dunya Theatre is dedicated to educating itself and engaging audiences about the colonial forces and processes shaping our present-day life. We believe in decolonization to restore justice and build a just relationship between indigenous and non-indigenous peoples. We commit to using the power of theater to represent and support reconciliation and reparation, recognize indigenous nationhood, reform the state constitution, and build an equal relationship across all people. So, while we're here tonight thinking about people's right to their land and witnessing, what's happening in occupied Palestine, just taking a moment to understand how we, as Canadians, place ourselves on this land that we live on today. I'd like to thank Silk Road Institute and Independent Jewish Voices as co-sponsors and collaborators of this event and this exhibition. And I'll pass it on to Ahab to introduce the artist, the Babylonian, who made the work that you're seeing around you.
Thank you, Tana. Thanks again to Disri Dunya and Silk Road Institute and Independent Jewish Voices. And thank you to all of you for being here. As Perna said, this art has been done by an artist who does not want to be known at this point in time. So I'm going to read his artist statement and give a couple of comments about his work as well. So here's what he wrote. I, the artist, do not feel that I'm the one writing this text. The children, casualties of conflict, are the ones writing it through me. They are the memories inside cocoons, reminding us of massacres at Deir Yassin, Tantura, Lud, etc., and Gaza's current and ongoing genocide. They are souls who exist among us for a while, then they ascend, are slaughtered, and on their way up towards heaven, they are killed again and fall back to earth. Falling back at earth, they are murdered yet one more time. And this keeps going on while we watch, horrified but muted. Their swaddles become their shrouds, reflecting their spotless experience in this world. Innocent, they toy with the missiles, separating their heads from their bodies. We hope they might find peace and rest for one last time. Maybe we hope that their death be comparable to our deafening silence. Every hour, 6 of them or more are added to the count. As we sleep in our warm beds, as we sing lullabies to our babies, a rocket, a hypersonic missile, or a seismic bomb crushes a body barely 8 inches long. It's not only murder. Their demise diverges from the ordinary. There's an air bridge that supplies this slaughter fest with weapons, while the world seems to be dancing on the young skulls. Yet, a veto continues to prevent an end of this bloodbath. I sense their gaze upon me, yearning for an end to this genocide. I remain invisible in this story, so excuse my absence. The Babylonian, Montreal, at the start of the 4th month of Israel's Gaza massacre. Those are his words, verbatim. He also wanted us to realize a couple of things about the works, that many of them are shaped from certain angles, like the map of Palestine. That the basic art material that was used in most of the works was gauze, a basic medical supply that is of very short supply in Gaza. The basic way to treat a wound can't even be found, while we can walk into any pharmacy, supermarket and buy as much as we want. Okay. Thank you for the Babylonian, and thank you for everybody for being here.
So the first performance that we have for you tonight is some music. I'd just like to remind remind everyone to maybe just double check their phones, turn off your ringers, notifications, all of that as we get started with our evening. I'll just introduce Lamia and share some of her words. Lamia Yared is a Lebanese singer and oud player who specializes in classical Arabic and Ottoman musical traditions. She has been involved in various projects aimed at preserving and promoting the rich musical heritage of the East Mediterranean region. Collaborating with outstanding musicians, she has performed at various festivals in Canada and internationally. Yared has released 2 albums with her ensemble Chant de Trois Cours 2019, which is recommended by Songlines magazine, and Ottoman Splendors 2022 under the Analecta label. Since 2014, Lamia Yared has produced concerts in Canada and internationally. As artistic director and musician, she brings together exceptional musicians from diverse cultural backgrounds for various music projects. She has worked with ensembles such as the Labyrinth Musical, La Cigale Ensemble, Octo Echo, the Studio de Musique Ancienne de Montreal, One École Musique, and Ensemble Scholastica. Without further ado, Lamia. Poetry section of our evening. So I'd like to invite Deepti to come read some poetry by Tisri Dunya Theater's co-founder, Rana Bose, who unfortunately passed last year, but he was a very, very strong advocate for a free Palestine, and we thought it would be fitting to share some of his words, so I'd like to invite Deepti to come do that.
At this point, I want winter back. I want the mist above the snow, on a river below a bridge, and nothing else. I want a lone pianist playing on a pier, whose end can't be seen. I want him to play single notes on a long bridge, with one note for every child, and nothing else. I want the end of the summer of blood, dust, ripped banners, grimaces, anger, of coiled, hissing vipers, spitting on friends who stand up alone, against drunken militia on billions in dole. I want the mirth, the couches with beer, the lawless in their patio, on a hilltop cheering, foaming, darting around. I want them all gone. I want winter and nothing else. I want an endless pier, a bridge, a piano player, a hammer for a finger, playing one note for one child and nothing else.
Thank you, Deepti. We're gonna have Ahab read some of his poetry. For those of you who don't know, Ahab is also the curator of this event. He worked alongside the artist, the Babylonian, to help put this all together and with the Sruthini Theater, and he is also a writer and poet in his own right. So I'm going to be sharing some of his words, and then he'll read some of his poetry. For many years, I have witnessed the injustice that has befallen on the people of Gaza. All Palestinians, of course, but Gazans in a more severe way since the blockade started in 2007. I visited Gaza twice in 2009 and saw children suffering and in despair. Some of those children are now surely carrying arms against Israel. Can I blame them? I blame the world that has let them down. I participated in the 2009 Freedom March to Gaza, which Egypt did not let go through. I participated in the Freedom Flotilla, Freedom Waves mission in 2011, which Israel did not let go through. I worked on building Gaza's Ark inside Gaza, but Israel sabotaged it then and burned it. Israel and Egypt lay siege on Gaza, and the world supports that siege. Today, there is a genocide being committed against the people of Gaza by Israel, and the world supports that genocide. I have my voice, and I will speak out. Since that is the one thing I can do now, I will do it. I will not be silenced.
Thank you, Perna. Thank you, Tisri Dunya. Thanks to the Silk Road Institute, who's not with us today. Thanks for Independent Jewish Voices. And again, thank you all for being here. And thank you, Lamia. I just want to say one thing. My oud heritage is mostly revolutionary songs, Sheikh Inam, stuff like that. But with Lamia, I connect. Although she's much softer, but I connect. I remember last time I heard her, I came from the back, sat in the front row, and I found the seat and just got mesmerized. So thank you again.
Thank you.
for being here.
Thank you.
I'll start with an Arabic. This poem was written in 2009, and Perna already mentioned that in 2009 I was very much moved by the over the New Year attack Israel called Cast Lead, which started in 2008 December and continued through 2009. And this poem was written in February 2009. I will read some sort of English interpretation. Yeah, I have it here. But I really put myself in the shoes of a man, woman, child, person in Gaza when I wrote this. So he's addressing the world, or addressing an Egyptian. بكتب لك من جوه حصار، بكتب لك من تحت جدار كان يوم شايل سقف الدار، بكتب لك من أرضي الحبلة بالأحرار، باسمي وباسم الشهداء والثوار، بكتب لك وفي حلقي مرة. غزوة غزة غرسة في قلبي سيف من نار، جيش جرار كل سلاحه جبن وعار، وشعبي الأعزل واقف صامد وانتوا بتختلقوا الأعذار. أندهلك ألاقيك محتار، أسيادك ماسكينك ذلة وانت حمار، لا بتحسب ايه آخرة صمتك، ولا عارف مين اللي بياكلك، ولا بكرة مين راح يحتلك. ما هو لازم هيجيلك الدور، مكتوب لكم كلكم أدوار. الأخت الكبرى مصر، الأخت الكبرى بايعة شرفها ويا الغاز للسمسار، وولادها لو ولعوا شمعة أو قالوا بصوت عالي كلمتهم العسكر يحرقوا دنيتهم. أسوار جواها أسوار، غزوة غزة شهد عليكم يوم الدين. مساكين باصين لكن مش شايفين، طول ما انتوا في ليل الخوف مساجين على فين رايحين ما انتوش عارفين. غزة يا اخويا مش هتموت ولا هتسلم ولا تنهار. اقفل بابك، سد ودانك، ألف ألف حكاية خسيسة. مهما هتكذب، مهما هتهرب، حتما برضه هيجي نهار. I consider that this is one of my best colloquial Egyptian poems, really. And English interpretation will not give it justice, but at least you'll get the feel of it. Besieged, I write. From under a fallen concrete slab, I write. From my persistent land, I write. In my name, and for the fighters, for the martyrs, for the victims, I write. Bitter, I write. The war on Gaza pierced my heart with a poison spear. Planes and bombs, and unarmed people, a world that's blind and deaf. I call on you, but you're confused. Clueless, manipulated, used. For you too, they have a plan. But you can't see, although it's clear. Your time is near. The war on Gaza shamed you to the end of days. You can't move, you can't think, you're stuck in fear. Gaza, my friend, will not collapse, surrender, or die. Plug your ears, close your eyes, believe their lies. No matter for how long lies survive, the sun shall rise. No matter for how long falsehood survives, the sun. On the days that followed October 7th, and let me be clear, this is not a justification to attacks against civilians. It is more of an understanding of what has been happening for decades that led to what happened on October 7th. In 2014, and during other attacks on Gaza, the residents of settlements around Gaza used to hold, and I'm not making this up, I don't know how many of you know it, they used to hold war watching parties. This is true. They used to go on hilltops and watch the bombs raining on the people of Gaza and cheer for their soldiers. On burning hills, between a tortured kid and light, between a righteous soul and spite, hailing the sound of bombs that fall, demolishing cribs throughout the night, cowards would march, destroying dreams of lasting peace, day in, day out. We turn to hope. We turn to hope. But you killed hope. We're asked to die or forced to fight. You reconstruct the storyline. Implant the lie in nursery rhymes. A tune you play to prove you're right. In pride you boast, we have the might. On hills close by, it's party time. Let's watch our boys blow them to bits. Let's watch our boys turn them to dust. On burning hills, a shameless fest. And then you cry, but where is love? Ah, you killed love 1,000,000 times, and now we all will pay the price. This poem is really a COVID poem. It's not it has nothing to do with war. But when I read it in times of war, I think it really fits in. It's called One-Way Ticket. There were birds in the sky, there was fish in the sea. People roaming the streets and greening the fields. At the dawn of despair, they all disappear. A one-way ticket to nowhere. Babies would cry, mothers would weep. What's home and what's peace if no one believes it's a one-way ticket to nowhere? Flowers wither and die, and hope fades away. A lot has gone by, but there's nothing to say. It's a one-way ticket to nowhere. And I'll end with this. Silence. Silence raped the girl and slaughtered the Tutsis, murdered Malcolm X, encouraged apartheid, approved of the Holocaust, flooded New Orleans. Silence stoned Muhammad, beheaded the Baptist, crucified Christ, burned 1,000 forests, polluted the rivers, and abused a child, occupied Tibet, subjugated Ireland, and stole Palestine. Silence your silence. Fill the night with song. Your words are divine. Mm-hmm.
No, I just want to say this, that this poetry that you read, the watch party in Israel, I mean, the world has become a watch party as it is happening.
Yeah.
So it's not just the Israelis. And at this given time, anybody who is not moved by what's happening in Gaza, and anybody who is ignorant enough to what has happened since 70, for 75 years, is actually that watch party. And watch party right now is very clear. It's white and non-white. As the example of South Africa. You have to write a poetry on that.
Next mission.
Can I include Modi?
Yes.
It's a shame, really. Modi is an expression of shame. He is ashamed Indians. He has ashamed the principle of non-aligned countries that India was party of. He's changed the politics. I think India is going to suffer his deviation of the politics, which used to be for Palestine, it has become against Palestine. Yes, indeed, do write about Modi and also Modi.
But I don't want to take a lot of time, but I think I don't fully agree with you about white and non-white. I'll tell you why. I think it's those who felt pain and those who lived too long without feeling pain. Like Ireland, for example. Ireland is a great supporter of, I mean, it is really, on the world stage, the second strongest supporter after South Africa for the Palestinian cause. I think that the Israeli lobby just targeted certain nations, among them our beloved Canada. And they took hold of the decision makers in those nations and thus make them numb with fear and they can't move. I mean, look at our Prime Minister. I don't want to get to what you're going to read because you're going to read something about this. But look at all those leaders now. They're afraid to say anything. But the people have felt it finally. And that's the only good thing about what's happening right now. It's not anymore, there are two peoples fighting against each other who don't know the exact story. They see.
Yeah.
They see.
I'm going to refine myself. Yes, it's not black and white in that sense, but essentially it's the white settler colonial governments, which that's true. They just happen to be white. Yeah.
As Ahab just mentioned, we're going to have Deepti close out our poetry section tonight, reading some of her poetry. So I'll just share some of her words before I invite her on stage. Most of us were not on this earth during the Nakba of 1948, but do stand in solidarity for the people of Palestine. The hollow words of our leaders, of some people who still do not accept this as a genocide, propels me to ask the question as to how a nation of people continues to be occupied in our lifetime. The cruelty and injustices has compelled me to express, to cry and grieve for the people who continue to face this as we raise our voices in hope that this ends soon. It has to end and Palestine needs to be free. I wrote in the memory of those who we have lost and those who stand tall despite this all. As a teacher, I continue to raise my voice and my pen in solidarity for the people of Gaza.
Thank you so much, Prerna, and for choosing this as well, because you were curating this whole event last time, and I really appreciate that. I'm not a poet, but I'll try. I wrote it as a reflection of what Justin Trudeau's bodyguard is thinking while he does their job. I walk with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as his bodyguard and hear the screams and shouts chanting, "Ceasefire now, ceasefire now." As I run and walk to protect the Prime Minister of Canada, these words resonate in my head. The Prime Minister walks steadfastly, aiming for his next destination. "Ceasefire now, ceasefire now." I read the placards and wonder, is this intentional? Will the governments hear the masses? I represent them as well, but protect the head of state, duty-bound, pledging towards protecting the one that leads the nation. I think in my head, we are all connected with each other. As a man from Alberta, I'm proud to be in his rank of people who work in the close run to protect the ministers. But will they protect us in time of need? I look around my group of men who serve, and there are no women, very few minorities, and the Prime Minister had pledged this in 2015. The fact that this is not a reality 8 years later, is this intentional? Ceasefire now, ceasefire now, ceasefire now. The words echo in my head. The Prime Minister turns a deaf ear, going about his work, calling up heads of state, calling for maximum restraint. What are these words? While people shout that this is a genocide, heads of state call it a war. They have a budget for wars. USA, 877 billion, China 292 billion, Russia 397 billion, India 81 billion, Saudi Arabia 75 billion, UK 68 billion, Germany 55 billion, France 53 billion, Canada 26 billion. This 1,718 is set aside for war for these nations. Is this intentional? Guess they must be administering this for protection against calamities, but we are clearly causing some of them. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now, ceasefire now. The slogans persist while I go along, dodging the press, the lights, the camera, the people. What shall I tell my daughter who is studying? That this is all for a cause? It is not intentional? We do align with the oppressed, the meek, but then the reality is that it took over 100 years to recognize that residential schools existed, had intentionally caused the rifts within families, within our nation. It took us over 100 years. And the occupation of Palestine has lasted 75. Is this intentional? If this was not intentional, this would have changed by now. If this was not intentional, this would have changed by now. If this was not intentional, this would have changed by now. want to take this moment to also say, or just read a couple of lines that I wrote at 6 a.m. on the 8th of January. In hope of Gaza. May sparks of strength illuminate the soil where people lie, covered in shroud. May each memory create a ripple in every heart that whispers and shouts the story of the people of Gaza. May we stand for what is right and fight for what is wrong. May we never forget that we all belong and share the space that is Mother Earth. Thank you.
I think that if this poetry is intentional, is so on the dot, and the reversal of the problem that she mentions in her poetry, to undo that is also actually intentional. And that is one of the reasons why we are not being able to correct the situation. I think that very often in this matters, we come to the point of saying, let's have the two sides. And I think what was so beautiful about this poetry was that one side was exposed, reforming the situation, not reforming the situation is also intentional. Yes.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about your role as a community activist and how that has played a role in your life in the last couple of years? And yeah.
Well, I've really been an activist all my life. I have worked for many causes, justice causes. I worked against the sanctions on Iraq in the 90s. I worked for Palestine again for many years. I've been involved in campaigns for indigenous communities here in Montreal. I've been involved heavily against Bill 21 in the last few years. With Palestine in particular, I have been a supporter of justice for the Palestinian people for decades. But in the last decade in particular, I also participated as an organizer and a coordinator for the Canadian Boat to Gaza and the Freedom Flotilla, most actively between 2010 and 2016, 2017. I was even coordinating for the International Freedom Flotilla as a whole, which the Canadian Boat to Gaza is one of the partner organizations in with other campaigns from Sweden, Norway, Turkey, England, France, South Africa. So the Palestinian cause in particular is close to heart very much because I grew up in Egypt in the 70s, 60s and 70s where we considered the Palestinian cause is our cause. So there are two levels here. There's an emotional level, but there is also a social justice, people's justice level, big injustice, imbalance of power. I mean, the Palestinian cause to me, as the years go by, becomes more than just something I am linked to emotionally or historically. It is more that it embodies a certain injustice of the weak versus the strong, of the supported by world powers versus that who does not have strong allies. I always, when I think about Palestine, I always think also of Tibet, for example, and how Tibet was absorbed by China because there were no international supporters of the Tibetan movement. And if we, as the years go by, that shouldn't happen again, but unfortunately what we're seeing happening in Gaza right now is something I never imagined would really happen, because this is all what we've been talking about for years: collective punishment, attacks on civilians, mass murder, destruction of infrastructure as a tool to subjugate people. It goes far beyond just attacking the armed group that attacked Israel on October 7th. It's taken as a justification to really annihilate the people of Gaza and take total control of it. And it's been something that I think everybody who's been involving themselves deeply with the Israel-Palestine issue always had an understanding that that's what Israel wants to do. That's why Israel never declared its borders. That's why Israel always is welcoming expansion after doing a peace treaty or a sort of peace talks. The next day, it goes and expands its control on the territory it occupies, which really makes it very clear that the goal here is not peace. The goal is expand and take over. Mm-hmm. So that's basically my history in pro-Palestinian activism. Mm-hmm. I also worked here in Montreal. We had the Coalition for Justice and Peace in Palestine, which many of the unions and the student groups, etc., were a part of. This was very active in the early 2000s, and then the BDS movement. I was one of the key people in Montreal for the BDS movement and of the campaign against indigo in particular. That again went on for a long time, and it's revived again right now because businesses that openly, or their owners openly support Israeli atrocities should be boycotted, should be confronted. This has nothing to do with Jewish-owned businesses, which I'm totally against attacking a business or an individual or in any way because of their religion or because of their ethnic, but when it comes to their political position, when it comes to supporting injustice, then our role as a society is to confront them.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for going into a little bit of detail of your history. In that I'm curious to know how you came about the opportunity to curate this exhibit, particularly if you can talk about how that came about and your connection to this artist and how you approached curating this exhibit.
So let me start by saying that I've been partnering with Tisri Dunya Theatre for many years as a writer, as somebody who's involved in the arts world. As somebody who is interested in expanding the exposure of causes beyond just the typical way. And Tisri Dunya Theatre has always been an institution that never shied away from taking positions about difficult issues. And I really give thanks and credit to its longtime artistic director, Rahul Verma, who has always supported and was always open to go the extra mile, not just to do what he had, but even go the extra mile to take positions. So actually, we discussed at Tisri. I was a board member for a certain time as well, and I continue to be a strong collaborator with them in many projects. When the attack started and we realized that it's going on, we said we need to also do something in the art world about what's going on. We actually did more than one thing. We revived a play, 7 Jewish Children, that was written again many years ago in one of the previous attacks by Israel on Gaza, and I directed it. Prerna, who's also an artist herself and also as an executive in Tisri Dunya. She also directed My Name is Rachel Corey, which is another play that. So Tisri had started earlier, much earlier before this exhibit, to expose what's happening in Gaza right now by Israel. And then I had a friend who told me that a friend of hers is an artist and he wants to do stuff, but he wants to stay in the background. Could I help in making this happen? And I said, I'll try my best for sure. It's not easy to get an exhibition room. Tisri Dunya Theatre was very happy to support that in whichever way they can. Also, the other partner came in, Silk Road Institute, which is also a community arts collective. And between the two of them and with me trying to approach different exhibition places, when we approached Pop Montreal, we found that luckily they had reserved this space for renovations till the middle of January. So we told them we're going to take it. We're taking that, even if it's only 10 days of exhibit, we'll do it. And the artist was very happy to say that he can be ready within that time frame. All this was done in the last 10 days of December, and by January 4th it was open. Of course, thanks a lot to Pop Montreal, because also they gave us the space for free for this exhibit in support of the cause, and it happened. And I mean, I'm very proud that we managed to make it happen. And it's as simple as, I'm a strong believer if you don't try, if you say it's impossible to do, it will never happen. If you try, let's say there's a 30% chance it will happen, but at least it's not zero.
Yeah.
So that's how this came to be. My involvement here was more organizational. I mean, yes, I did a bit of curation, but I also left the vision to the artist totally. I just gave some suggestions, and this is his vision. And we're hoping that some of the works will be re-exhibited in other places. We're working on that. It doesn't seem that the end of what we are witnessing is happening anytime soon. And even if it ends, people still need to remember what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk a little bit more specifics about the artworks themselves. Can you talk about the title, Cocoons Between Heaven and Earth, a little bit? And was that you that came up with the title?
No, that's
or
the artist again. That's the artist.
Okay.
He had a vision that I'm not sure I'll be able to fully express, but first, I guess he had this vision that the shape of a child, especially a baby, in a shroud is very much like a butterfly in a cocoon. But the difference is that the baby goes to heaven, but the cocoon breaks up and the butterfly comes out. But then I think he also saw that due to the huge number of the killings that keep happening, it's as if those babies, when they die, they go up to heaven, but they don't reach all the way. They come back to be killed again, and killed again, and killed again. So the vision that we have of the killings could be the same, like as if it's the same babies being killed again and again and again. And also the similarity between the diapers and the shrouds, that the babies are always in a situation of loss. They don't know what's happening to them. Another part that was very important to him is to use the gauze as the primary ingredient of the artwork that he's doing, because gauze as a medical resource, as a medical supply, is something that is the very base to treat wounds. And in Gaza, we know that they are very short in all medical supplies, while we here can walk into any pharmacy and buy rolls and rolls of it. So that contrast as well, he wanted to bring it out. He did have a lot of other visions as well, that due to the shortage in time, we couldn't materialize them all and the structure of the space. But I think that the exhibit as is a very impressive exhibit, taking into consideration the time that it was prepared and materialized in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was quite a fast turnaround, and especially to organize the events that you have in that short amount of time as well is quite a feat. I'm wondering, what is your opinion on the importance of having an exhibit like this in Montreal and to bring this issue to attention here? If you can talk a little bit about that.
I think it's extremely important when you're fighting for a cause to fight on all fronts. We've seen huge demonstrations on the streets. We've seen actions at politicians' offices. We have seen reluctance by a lot of media and a lot of the art community to get into the issue. They are very afraid because it's a very, what they call divisive issue, which I am totally against, because there is nothing divisive about, I mean, yes, it can be divisive, some people might not like it, but it's not controversial. What's happening right now should not be controversial. It's as clear as can be. So it is very important to expand into all venues when you are exposing something like this. It needs to be exposed. So having it in the art world is extremely important, whether it's theater, whether it's installation art, whether it's paintings, and thus it was extremely important to find a way to make this materialize. And I hope to see more of it in everywhere in Montreal, and I hope there are others who are preparing other exhibits about what's happening. Again, I would really say that it needs courageous art institutions like the Sridunia Theatre to make this happen, because it is not it's not for the faint of heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know we've seen so many protests and demonstrations about this issue since October, obviously before that as well, but in a large scale since October. And I'm wondering how you think art plays a role in activism, and how both of those things can go hand in hand together, especially in this collaboration with the Sridunia and with theater, with exhibits.
Well, art is a tool to bring things to people's hearts. I believe that art, whether we're talking about music, whether we're talking about songs, whether we're talking about poetry, whether we're talking about theater, breaks through to bypasses people's minds and goes directly to their conscience, to their hearts. And thus it is, we know how much, I mean, it's not something that is debatable, how much film, how much novels have changed the world. And this is why it is extremely important to give a chance for this and similar exhibits, works. Again, whether it's theater, whether it's novels, whether it's music, to penetrate the societal spaces and bring us to a new level that people can look at things in a different way. Mm-hmm. And they might, I mean, somebody can read 10 essays and 10 op-eds and feel nothing, but maybe by seeing one piece of art, everything changes.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that the attention that has been on Gaza and Palestine has been dwindling in the last little while?
What do you mean by little while?
Like the last month or so.
Unfortunately, we humans do get numb after a while. And that is very, very sad. I don't want to use the word fortunately, but I think Israel is doing itself a disfavor by continuing this brutal, violent, murderous streak that is going on. And people get tired. We are in Montreal. January and February are brutal weather months. So we won't expect what we see in October to see again in February, in the size of people in the streets. People get busier with the progress of the school year, the academic year, etc. But at the end of the day, the issue is very much alive. Mm-hmm. It's very much alive, and it will continue to be. And I hope that the change that happened, we have seen a huge change, which is between the people that many people I know who used to say that I don't understand fully this issue of Israel-Palestine, they're two peoples fighting together, maybe they're both wrong. I think this kind of vision has drastically changed this time.
Mm-hmm. I guess the last thing I just wanted to ask you is, how do you hope for exhibits like this to keep that conversation going and for the attention to stay on this issue?
Well, again, artists have a huge role, and they have their own way of getting to people's hearts and minds. And I hope that as we are closing down this exhibit, there are other people who are thinking about doing new art installations, art exhibits, more permanent, more scattered around. Let's hope that this is a launch to that idea and others take over. And I think that whether it's me, whether it's the two sponsors, Tissu Dunya Theatre of the Silk Road Institute, whether it's Independent Jewish Voices, which has been a huge support for the Palestinian rights in the last years, not only now, but especially in the last few months, we'll always be ready to support any work for Palestinian justice.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask that I didn't ask about?
I think we covered everything.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.